going to give you keys on opening the book of Genesis. This is very, very important. Genesis is the first book in the Bible, but it's not the first chronological verse in the Bible. John 1:1 gives us the first chronological verse. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Come on, guys. Can you get it? In the beginning was the Word. Now, if we go back to Genesis, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. You will realize that I put emphasis on certain words because we have to understand it. Because Genesis 2 verse 4 says, let's read it. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth. These are keys that we must have to understand Genesis. John 1:1 was written right in the middle of the creation, I would say, floor plan. Because he says in Galatians 4:4, in the fullness of time, God sent forth his son right in the middle. It was 4,000 years after Adam. But let's just go back to John 1:1 again, because he picks it up and he connects Genesis 1 and John 1, the fullness of time. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All these things were made by him, and without him was nothing made that was made. Can you see? He picks up creation week. Now, verse 4 says, oh, this is awesome. In him was life, and the life was the light of man. Let's look at, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. The first thing we're going to emphasize is beginning. He says, the word beginning means Rosh. Guys, it means head or principal thing or the main thing. So beginning was before creation. Afrikaans has an awesome word that it says before time. So the beginning was before time. You've got to get it. Now, we know that Jesus came out of the bosom of the Father, but all of creation came from Christ. When you actually compare the word with a word, you're sort of starting to understand, because that is the spiritual language. Now, we cannot read Genesis 1 alone. You cannot, because in the volume of the book it's written. There's a purpose for the book. And we must not just get so involved in the book that we are just blessed for the moment, but we never get into God's purposes. So I want to take you right to Colossians. That takes us right back to Genesis. Can you see? The word goes like this. For by him, Christ, all things were created that are in heaven and in earth, visible, invisible, whether they be thrones, dominions, principalities, powers, all things were created by him and for him. By him and for him. So he was there before time, before creation. By him and for him. He was the substance of creation. That is why he has put his faith in our hearts. We are saved by his faith. Faith is the substance of everything that we are. Come on. Verse 17. He is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have preeminence. I think Paul should have written Selah there. Because if you take Genesis 1 and Colossians 1, it's like, oh my word, he is the head of the body. He's the head of creation. That is why he was never, ever going to leave his creation alone. Yes, that is why we read in Hebrews, he will never leave us. He will never forsake us. You know, it doesn't matter what happens on the earth because earth is in fallen state. God is still on the throne, and he has determined the end from the beginning. Isaiah 46, verse 10. So it said, coronavirus is not going to change God's purposes. Your president is not going to change God's purposes. But it's for us to understand we are not from this world, even though we're in the world. And the minute you get that concept of above and beneath, you can understand the language of the Spirit.